I've been learning a lot about our nervous system recently. And so I was talking to a client about it today, because there's parts in our body that we don't fully understand. And so we're maybe in modes that we are kind of working on automatically and naturally without recognizing that we're in it. And so a part of our nervous system is fight. And if we're constantly stuck in fight or flight, which I have been in, is it interesting to share a wee bit about our nervous system and share, do you know much about your nervous system and how it shows up?
I'm having Paul on my podcast on Friday, which I'm well excited about. I never wanted to ask him for ages. So I had done 6 months of therapy with Paul, and I've been trying to figure out how I can kind of convey my experiences to clients as a personal trainer. But I went 6 months, basically thought I was incapable of a healthy relationship until I went and figured out what goes on in my head. Then I got in a relationship and it is healthy. 3 months in, I still got the same feelings that come up. It was just sheer anxiety. In the past, a lot of the actions who I'd been with had maybe left me to feel like that, but I knew for a fact that this was just because nothing had happened for me to feel like that. Okay. Whereas usually I could go, right, this made me feel this way and stuff. It was the thought of getting in a relationship, the same things happening. It was almost like past experiences. Yeah. I was overthinking that. I went back for another session with him. In therapy, I would have the goal of getting to what I wanted to speak about, but I would, go to other places first because I'm too embarrassed to talk about it. But Paul kind of started picking that up, I think. So he would entertain them at the start, and then he just started properly going through fight or flight responses with me. If I had anxiety, and when I've had it in the past, my thoughts are just 100 miles an hour, and I'll be ding, 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 and every one will be more ridiculous than the other one, and I'll be able to fully sit there and go, I don't believe any of these thoughts, but I can't stop them. I could literally just sit and write stuff down and be like, I don't even believe any of this, but because it's been said over and over and again in my head, it's making me start questioning it. You'll be able to explain it better than me, but he was just you're in fight or flight mode, and here's some tools to get out of it. I done CBT on myself, and I just took the cognitive distortions he had gave me before, and I basically just redone the session. I done it in here. I was just scared about what was happening to me. I went, fuck it, and I'd booked a session with him. I was like, right, I'm just going to do what he done with me on myself. Spoke about it to my girlfriend as well. It started getting a wee bit better, but I wanted to know what to do the next time it happened, because I avoided doing any exercise, because I thought, right, my first thought was, I don't want to just exercise to take myself away from the thoughts. He was like, as long as you're aware that you're not doing that. He was like, actually, when you're in fight or flight, I don't know the science behind it or anything, but he was like, just even getting yourself into a different heart rate zone and stuff might actually help your nervous system. I don't know enough about that. That was just the way he explained it to me. When you have epiphanies, I knew that specific advice, and me learning that was going to be so change my life, because I was so scared of that happening to me again, because my first breakup put me in that mode for honestly 18 months, and I was every minute of every day. So I've always been terrified
anticipating it's coming back.
And I'm I actually can't I can't go into that again.
Thanks for sharing that. I feel like that's a really powerful example of it all, and I know you're vulnerable anyway on this, but if you've seen mental health struggles around you, I'll try and speak for myself. I was scared to experience challenges with my mental health because I seen how it could impact people, and so I felt like if I knew as much information as I could, I'd almost outrun it, physically outrun it. So I thought, if I understand everything cognitively, then I'm not going to.
I will never face a problem.
And what I was ignoring was my feelings. I was ignoring everything that I was experiencing internally and trying to think it away. I started fearing having depression again. I remember, because my experience was feeling like you had fell down a hole and not knowing how to get yourself up. And I felt so fully in my body and my nervous system that it could have stole my life. I really felt like I could have just got lost down there and I couldn't get back up. And so once I did get back up, it felt a bit like you were on a tightrope. And mine was associated with lots of different things, but winter definitely exacerbated it. So
you're talking to the winter avoider for about a decade.
So when winter was approaching, I began to get that anticipation that you're describing. So relationships and getting intimate in that type of dynamic for you maybe created that feeling like I was going to go back to that previous time in my life and all the stuff was going to come up. Winter was every year. I was I need to sort myself out with winter. and not fear it as much and lean into resting. I think that the main point of it was I had fear around slowing down and resting, because then you have to sit with how you feel and not get your self-worth from being productive and doing stuff. I really resonate with that fear around experiencing the same thing again. I think we can get lost in that a lot with lots of anticipatory grief and loss, and it can take us out the present moment. And so learning about my nervous system and supporting clients through that allowed me to learn about being present without this need to focus on it too much. And so, for example, we hear a lot about meditation and mindfulness and how we need to spend time practicing being present. And I think for me, learning about my nervous system allowed me to realise that I can naturally slip into being present without having it become like another thing I have to get good at. Recognising what I needed and how to meet my own like internal needs allowed me to realise that I could use running, for example, or being outdoors to be present. How do I describe it? You naturally fall into it when you're not always trying to work through things. Like you don't maybe always have to find the answer and make sense of things. And my go-to when I was ever feeling something was like, how can I research this as much as I can to understand what was going on? And then it's like, it gives you a temporary relief from it, but you're still maybe not feeling it. And so your nervous system, feeling it, experiencing it, embodying it, actually connecting with how your body feels and learning how it fluctuates throughout the day. The nervous system can be broken out down to 3 different parts. The most optimal, that you don't always sit in, but where you would always want to sit in if you could, is kind of this safe, at ease, sociable, relaxed, authentic, most genuine part of you comes out when you're in that kind of safe place. But life happens, and also historically we've experienced things. Our nervous system learns from our history, where we've been, our own individual nervous system will have been shaped by our upbringing. Your nervous system's so cool. Yeah. And it's so like directly related to exercise and what different types of exercise we can do. Our body and our mind heal at the same time. And that process is kind of like, I don't ever think it should, and Gabor Mate talks about this, it's mind-body, it's not mind and body. You know, we can't actually extrapolate those things, that they exist at the same time. So that's why therapy without thinking about our body is disconnected, and that's why PTs without thinking about your mind is disconnected. It all comes as one. We just got to one part of it. So if you've got the calm, relaxed space, you've got fight or flight. A lot of people, when they're kind of commenting, you know how when we're talking about the people that are polarised online and leaving the negative comments, they're a lot of them are in fight. They're trying to share, they've maybe felt unheard, a lot of unmet needs, connection needs, so they're seeking connection, but they're wanting to be understood, they're wanting to share their opinions, so they're often in that mode. Got stuckness, so that can be kind of associated with lack of interest, demotivation, maybe your nervous system's felt overwhelmed from a historical experience or something that's showing up in the moment, showing up at day to day.
That will what burnout would maybe look like, no?
Yeah, just a sense of like disconnecting from the moment. What's really sad about that type of stuckness is that when you come out of that, you have a lot of internalized guilt and shame because you feel like you should have done something. It's when you're freeze, you know, that sense of freeze. So there's all those kind of things going on, and it's like at a different continuum. Some people might feel a wee bit stuck and disconnected, others might feel like completely stuck and out. The most optimal way is to fluctuate between all those things because they're all trying to help us navigate the world. We need to feel certain ways to cope with existing stuff that's going on. How can we regulate when we're feeling dysregulated? How can we take pause? And sometimes that's really hard if we're in a moment where we don't have time for that, whether we're maybe having an argument or a disagreement or we're at work or something's going on where we don't have that space to have pause. But if we do, 5 or 6 things you can lean on. One of them is exercise. But it's finding the right exercise that feels right depending on your nervous system state. So it might be running when you're feeling anxious, you're feeling that flight.
It's crazy because I automatically assumed that would be a bad idea.
Right.
I just assumed running away from my problems.
And that's not, I guess that's a really, really good point to share, that that's not to say that that would have been right for you. Maybe if you're internally, intuitively saying this doesn't feel right, then maybe it's not.